Well, Peter and Amy are organizing local tea parties. Amy's organizing one here in Hornell, and Peter one in Corning.
That's correct.
Would you like to tell us a little bit about that, Peter?
Well, why don't ladies before gentlemen?
Oh, go. Well, I
stand
stand corrected.
There's a real Republican right there.
I just want to correct John. I did not organize the Tea Party. I am the impromptu publicity department director, just mostly for radio. I had been thinking about starting a tea party for quite a while and thought, geez, I wish there was somebody that would do that. And lo and behold, I got an email from Amanda Snyder, and started spreading the word and emailed with her back and forth, and told her I knew some folks at WLEA, and she asked me to help publicize it for her here at WLEA. So the Hornell Tea Party is going to be on the end of Broadway, and so far I think we're going to have a pretty good crowd, a lot of great positive feedback. She's going to have some petitions there and voter registration cards, and she's made some suggestions for signs, and I'm really excited.
So this is April 15th in Hornell, New York, and it starts at 11:30 a.m.?
Yes, we're meeting between 11:30 and noon, and hopefully we'll kind of just walk out and go where the wind takes us, I suppose, about 1 o'clock.
Okay, so you're going to be walking around?
Just moving out towards the highway, a little more visible.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Good. And you're going to be doing certainly some threatening things, like you're going to be circulating petitions with your First Amendment right to force elected officials to recognize that they overspend, and you're going to be registering new voters.
Yes,
Certainly
threatening.
the great
scary,
track.
scary stuff.
Peter Halliday, I've got a question for you.
Yeah.
Going back to the fall, there was a $700 billion bailout. Recently, a $700 billion stimulus bill, a $400 billion omnibus bill, 9% increase in spending here in New York, including a $1 billion slush fund for Governor Patterson. I don't understand. What's the beef you have with taxes?
I mean, not just taxes, obviously, but spending. There's many issues that we could talk about there, including that the GSA is still not really sure what the actual totals are going to be. So a lot of this money is ongoing and hasn't been spent yet. So $700 billion really is probably not going to be the final total amount. Just to put it in everyone's sort of frame of reference, $1 trillion is basically equal to about $3,300 per person over 10 years. So that's $33,000 per person in the country, man, woman, and child here, and that's a lot of money. I mean, if anybody has that, they're certainly welcome to bring it to the Tea Party, and I certainly will enjoy a nice trip to the Caribbean or something. I mean, that certainly would stimulate the economy a little bit more, I think, than their current plan. But I think the real issue here is most people realize that in Congress, not everybody reads all of the bills every day. I mean, we can't ask them to do their jobs. But the real thing is, in a historic bill like this, you would think that they would actually at least read the bill. I mean, something that has the historic nature of spending like this, and there is so much waste here. I mean, we're talking, is it really helpful to the economy to have a study on a certain kind of mice in the San Francisco area region, and why isn't that considered pork just because it's in Nancy Pelosi's district and doesn't really help the national economy? There's a lot of things that are like that, and I think the American people as a whole are just are fed up with the government helping in this way, so unthoughtfully, so non-deliberative, and they're really hungry for real solutions, one that are long-term and not just short-term like this.
Peter, what's different now? Even under the Bush administration, spending was out of control. President Bush had a Republican Congress, both the House and the Senate for quite some time, and they claim to be fiscal conservatives, but they spent like drunken sailors. No offense to sailors, but that's the truth. They did it. So what's behind this now?
Well, personally, I don't know about the rest of the people, but I can say that I was just as upset when Bush did it, if not more, because I consider myself having an R after my name, and I feel like that wasn't a good representation of my party. But this isn't just about Democrat or Republican. I mean, this is an American issue. Spending is an American issue, and we're finding Democrats and independents and blanks. Everybody is upset about this, and so I feel like when you ask the American people, they'll tell you there was no difference. They're just as equally upset, and when you have a president who campaigned and a congressman who campaigned in opposition to the spending, that just blows your mind.
Well, Peter, I had a question for you, and that is when you spoke about legislators not reading bills and simply standing up like bobblehead dolls to please the executive branch, were you talking about D.C. or Albany?
Well, I feel like you certainly you can certainly see good examples of that on both sides. We're lucky to have some good representation here on the state level, but when you look in Albany, it's just like you've heard in other places. It's no longer 3 men in a room. Now we just have 1 man in a room with Sheldon Silver, and just this 3 men deciding the fate of our budget has got to stop. We got to have everybody sitting down at a table. We pay these people. Here's my idea. You want to save money? Let's, instead of having all these people represent us, if only 3 people make the decision, why don't we just get rid of everybody else and save their salaries? We either have to have some real change here where the parties get real and work together for the common good of the state, or why don't we just start packing up our bags now?
Well, 71% of the New York State residents still say that New York State's government is most dysfunctional, and that came out just 2 or 3 years ago in a national study. I think that hurt some legislators in Albany, but certainly there's some degree of separation between the Albany politicians and the voters who they represent, because clearly there's no fear in Albany.
That is true.
Yeah. We're talking to Peter Halliday and Amy Michalojak. Amy, I've got a question for you now. You're just a regular person, just like Fran and I. Well, Fran's a little irregular, but what are the folks saying out there? You talk to people day in and day out. Are they finally just fed up? Have they had enough? Are they starting to get in tune to what's going on around them?
Well, you guys have touched on a little bit that this isn't a Republican or Democratic issue. Those who would say, well, where were you during the Bush years? I can tell you, and you guys know this, most fiscal conservatives did not appreciate the economic policies of Bush when it came to spending. And we were there, and we were always speaking out against it. But I guess the difference now is, whereas perhaps during G.W. and his father, it was a drip, drip, drip. And there was always, there may have been someone around to keep it in check, whether it was the balance of power. And now that it's not a drip, drip, drip. It is a complete cascade of an entire Congress that is hell-bound and pretty much destroying everything that we've pretty much based our republic on.
Yeah, they're literally spending money that hasn't been printed yet, wealth that hasn't been created yet.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the answer is. Hopefully these Tea Parties will finally get their attention. And the only thing that'll get their attention is if they're in danger of not winning re-election, and that's what it really is all about. So.
And the other naysayers, another instance where I don't think people understand the gist of the Tea Party is the taxation without representation, and they said, well, that's silly, that's ridiculous. Of course, that's not what this is. But just like you said, if it's a 678-page document is put in front of them of this magnitude that they knew was going to run up into the quadrillions when it comes to debt, that not one of them sat down and read it. That is most definitely not what they're there for.
Yeah, it's definitely an eye-opener. Is anyone, are you expecting any big shots showing up to yours? Or?
Well, I'm not sure. We certainly sent the press releases out, and of course, I'm sure we'll get some elected officials. What we're really emphasizing is, we're not really allowing any elected officials to say anything. This is they had their chance to speak to us in the election cycle, and I think there'll be time to talk about their response and some of their suggestions to what we say after the event. But this is really an event for the people to speak and the politicians to listen.